Hello everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another live stream here at my YouTube channel. Welcome. Today was the first day of my release for March 2026. And let's see, people are confused over here about timing. 7 p.m. It should be 8. I have no clue. Maybe daylight savings is being a little funny on YouTube's end. It is 6 p.m. here in Utah, so that's when I'm starting the live stream. Before we get into tonight's card that I'm going to be making, I wanted to remind you all that mail call is coming up on Wednesday at 2 p.m. It's in the afternoon. I'm going to be opening up the mail, and I believe, gosh, was it coloring? I think coloring was the theme for February. So we're going to go through over all of those coloring cards that you've sent in, and we're going to have a lot of fun. As for tonight, like I said earlier, today was the 9th of the month, which means there was a brand new release over at Concord and 9th, including my line with them. And so we're going to be, I can't even talk tonight. So I'm going to be creating with a few of the new products that came out today. So first, I just thought I'd show you the main product we're going to be using today. And that is the Flower Field Stamps. And I'm not going to be using the dies today, but I am going to be using the stencil that goes with it. And then I'm going to be doing a greeting from one of the other bundles in the release. But we'll get there. We'll talk about that when we get there. First thing I need to do is I need to stamp this really large kind of field of flowers onto a card front. So this is a large enough stamp that if you wanted to do a 5x7 card, here's an example. This is a 5x7 card, but landscape. So you can do a 5x7 card landscape and have it run this entire length of the image. It's a little bit longer than 7 inches. So it's really great. It fills a great portion of the card front. But today I'm going to be doing a 5x7 portrait card. So I'm going to be stamping it first, so then we can do the stenciling. Now, I did want to do this image at some point with watercolor, so stay tuned. I don't know if we'll do that next week or maybe the week after, but I did want to try doing that at some point. All right, so I've got some 5x7. Where'd my cardstock go? This is 5x7 cardstock. This is 110 pound Neenah Classic Crest Solar White. I do have both this thick 110 pound as well as the 80 pound. But if I know I'm going to be doing ink blending and have it held down using a grip mat, I tend to like to use the thicker cardstock just because it's, I don't know, I feel like sometimes the paper will tear if it's super wet. But when it's the thicker paper, it's even better. Okay, so this is actually going to be on the 5x7 card about like that. So I need to stamp it. I don't know if that's going to work because it's going to be out of the MISTI. That's okay. We'll make it work. I'll just put the card stock. I'll stick it down. It's going to stick out the top of the MISTI. But the main portion that's going to be stamped is down here at the bottom, so it should work out. All right. Rhonda, you bought the entire release? Well, I hope you love it, and I hope you get lots of use out of it. There's lots of birthday stuff in this release, and then, of course, this stamp and the stencil set. All right. I think I want it about like this. I'm planning to have the greeting that I'm using today is going to be kind of in the center. Sorry, pull this down. Center top. So I want to make sure that as I arrange the flowers on the cardstock, that I have kind of like that, kind of like a little dip there. So I think I need to slide this over just a little bit. Okay, we need it about right there. And then I really love this little stem right here, so I want to make sure I get that in. I do want it kind of hanging off the bottom of the cardstock a little bit. That looks good. Transfer that to the door of my MISTI. I'm just going to make sure that's sticking there. And I'm going to use an ink that works really well with ink blending. Now, this is a pigment ink. It will need to dry. I'll speed it up with the heat tool. But if you're having problems with your lined stamped images, smearing with any ink blending on top, you might need to pick a more waterproof ink. This one happens to work really, really well. And in the whole Versafine Clair line, they actually have quite a few different colors. So if you wanted to stamp in like a brown or even like a navy, I think that would look really pretty. Now this is a really big image. I'm trying to make sure I walk over every single section. And then I'm hoping for a really good image. See, I totally missed that spot. So let's press down right there. I'm going to come back and just get any of these spots that I missed. Other than that, that looks really good. All right, I'm going to peel up my cardstock here. I'm going to set that aside. It can just dry for a few minutes while I clean up my stamp. You can use a stamp wheel for something like this. I think Stephanie just mentioned that in the chat. But I didn't have my stamp wheel handy right here. So I wanted to show you how you could do it with a standard sized MISTI. Okay, just giving this stamp a good scrub with my baby wipe. And then we'll get moving. All right, I think except for the greeting, that's the only stamping we're doing today. All right, when it comes to putting this really large stamp back on the stamp sheet, I turn it over. And then I'm going to come in with the stamp set. And I can just kind of start to line up. It's not perfect, but close enough. And then I have it back on that sheet. And I'll wipe off this door of the MISTI just to be sure that it's clean. All right. So, like I said, we need to make sure that the lines on our stamped image, we need to make sure they're really, really dry before we start to do the ink blending. I'm going to put this stamp set back in its packaging. I haven't done my storage pockets for this month's release yet, so I'll have to do that later. So I happen to know this probably isn't ready to start ink blending, so I'm going to hit it with my heat tool just to make sure that all of the ink is dry and so it doesn't smear or smudge when I go to ink on top. The ink doesn't necessarily need heat setting to make it work. I was just speeding along the drying process. Okay, so we're going to do some ink blending using the stencil. Actually, before we do that, let's do the ink blend on the sky, this portion right here. I like to just ink blend on top of paper. I don't like to use my grip mat for this portion because I feel like, oh, hello. I don't want to own my own strength. I just tore a little tiny bit. I feel like when I do ink blending off the edge of cardstock onto a grip mat, it grips the bristles of my blending brush too much. And then I don't get like a really smooth blend. I feel like I'm like jerking my hand around. It's weird. All right. The three colors that I'm using for the sky, I want to keep it pretty pale. I don't want it to be too intense. So I'm going to start with Buttercup. Let me grab an ink stand here. I'm going to start with Buttercup, and I'm just going to bring that in. I want the yellow to kind of stop about here, so it's not going to go into all of the flowers. So I'm just going to kind of bring it across. It can go a little bit into the flowers. That's not a problem. I just want to make sure that it looks like the yellow is really fading into white. All right, so it's a very, very pale little yellow strip. That's all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to bring in a little bit of Sweet Pea. Now these really big brushes from Pinkfresh are coming in clutch for this because I don't want to bring in too much ink right now. I want it to be really soft. In my head, I was kind of thinking, I want like a really soft kind of summer sunrise. Something really pale. But also I am going to be adding a white sentiment on top for the actual card greeting. So I want to make sure that there's enough color that it's not, the white won't get lost. You know what I'm saying? I want there to be enough. And if I cut out my die cut greeting later and then the white is getting lost because the background is too pale, I can always come back and add more ink. But you can't take it away. Okay, so I've got that nice little soft blend up into the Sweet Pea. And now I'm going to come in with Fig. Now Fig can be really strong. So I'm really going to make sure that I test my ink blending before I bring it over to my project. Because it can come in hot. And I don't want it to be super saturated before I even have a chance to blend. You know what I'm saying? But I did want there to be a little bit of a purple edge. Just letting that purple kind of blend into the pink. We want a really, really soft blend. Very peaceful looking. I mean, it is going to be a birthday card, so it can't be too anemic, but okay. All right, I like how that's looking. It's like a nice soft blend. Once again, these brushes come in clutch for stuff like this when you need to have a really, really soft blend. You can achieve a similar look with other types of blending brushes, but it is so much easier with these brushes. And one thing I would note for all of you, if you've never used these brushes before, or if you struggle getting a really, really soft blend on your projects, sometimes it's a matter of how much ink is on the brush. So if you get into the habit of ink blending on top of paper like I'm doing, this is just cheap copy paper or like printer paper. If you get into the habit of every time you go to take your ink to your project, stop and kind of tap off like I was doing, like all of this really dark purple. I was just removing some of that ink so that when I come to my project, I only have a minimal amount of ink on the brush. If your ink pad is already fairly dry, you probably won't have this issue, but it's good to get into the habit of checking it before you go to your project, because at some point you'll probably re-ink that ink pad, and it'll be nice and juicy, and you don't want to get a surprise when you go to ink blend. Okay, maybe get that soften just a little bit right there. And I think we're gonna call it. I think that's pretty good right there. So let's do the stenciling. All right, so now I'm gonna bring in my Altenew grip mat. This is just gonna hold everything down, including the stencils, while I'm working. All right, and I'm gonna put this over here to the side just because I know the image is off to the left side on the stencils. I know that because it was off to the side on the stand. So this is the stencil pack. This is Flower Field Stencil Pack. You can see the example on the back. It's going to stencil on and ink up the entire image from the stamp set. Granted, I only did, like this little portion, but it does all of it. There are 5 stencils in the pack. And I guess I'll just start with, let's do the leaves first. Why not, right? So I'm just going to come in and find where these leaves line up. It is a really large stamped image, so I may need to move my stencil around a little bit to make sure I get all the right spots. That looks pretty good. Just trying to get it at the right angle. I think that's pretty good right there. All right, I've chosen 2 green colors. I'm using Eucalyptus and Rainforest. I'm going to start with Eucalyptus, but I might bring in a little bit of Rainforest, maybe to do a little bit of shading on these areas. Haven't quite decided what I'm doing. Let me put these other blending brushes back. And then I'm going to come in with a kind of a pale bluish. Eucalyptus is actually more green, isn't it? Maybe I'll go to a lighter green. In fact, I'm going to bring back my little paper here. Make sure I don't have I've got like a really bright green on my brush. I don't like clean my brushes in between use. So I'm just going to try to get off as much of the bright green that's in the blending brush as possible. Okay. Oh, thank you. Is it Miss Angelo? I'm not sure how to say your name, but thank you. That's so sweet. All right, so I'm going to bring in this Eucalyptus. And I'm making sure that as I ink blend, I'm going in a clockwise and counterclockwise direction. That makes sure that every single nook and cranny in the stencil gets some ink. The other great thing that's kind of a built-in feature with this particular type of ink from Concord and Ninth is that the inks, they might look a little splotchy when you first apply them, but over time they dry back and smooth out a little bit. So if things ever don't look quite right, you can always give it a little bit of time and things will dry back. Okay. While we've got this stencil on here, let's switch to Rainforest. This is a much darker green. In fact, I'm going to check. Not too bad. I was hoping it wouldn't be too juicy, but I'm just going to bring in a little bit of Rainforest, just like at the bottom of the leaves. Just give them a little bit of like a different color, just right at the bottom. I think that'll look really nice. This leaf is in front of the other, so I'm actually going to grab, let's see, I can probably just use a Post-it actually. I'm going to grab a little bit of a Post-it. I can even tape that down a little. I'm just being a little picky, but I think have like a little color change right there looks really nice. Let me zoom in a little bit so we can see what's happening more. There we go. Let me move this over a little more center. There we go. Okay. So I'll add more Rainforest down here at the bottom. The next stencil, I'm going to be doing more leaves. So I don't want to add too much Rainforest because I plan to have the next leaves be mostly all Rainforest, but I did want to just have a little bit of color difference there. All right, just wiping down my stencil with a microfiber cloth. Then I'll lift up the stencil. There's the beginning of our blend. I like to clean my stencils with a little bit of rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle. So I'm just going to spray this on the stencil, away from my table here, away from my desk. So sorry, y'all can't see. But you just spray with the alcohol, then wipe it with a microfiber cloth on both sides. And the alcohol dries really, really fast. So then you can move on. All right, our next leaf layer. Let's see, where are these lining up? That looks about right there. All right, press that down. Still got my Rainforest ink pad right here. So I think for this one, I think what I'll do is I'll put down a nice layer of Rainforest, and then I'm going to come back and just put a little bit more ink down so that we can get a little bit of that shading at the bottom of each leaf. So I'm not being too picky about how much ink is on each one of these leaves right now, because I am going to come back and add more. I just want a nice, I would say wash of color, because that's normally what it would be, you know, with like watercoloring or something, but I just want a nice layer of Rainforest on everything. All right, now I'm going to come back and add more Rainforest on top. There's a question, what should we clean the grip mat with? You can, it's made out of the same material as your clear stamps. It's made out of photopolymer. So you could use whatever you use to clean your stamps. So in my case, I like to use Ultra Clean Stamp Cleaner. I have a bottle from Simon Says Stamp. So when your grip mat stops having much grip, you can use a little bit of that cleaner. I spray it on and then wipe it off with a baby wipe. And I wipe it off a few times because it can be a little bit oily, kind of greasy, but it does take off any of the ink. Now, sometimes, or rather all the time, some of the really strong colors of ink will stain your grip mat. Just like you may have noticed that my little grip mat that's in my MISTI, it's like stained on one side. That would be Plumberry. Plumberry from Concord and Ninth is notorious for staining stamps and grip mats. So sometimes the stain is just unavoidable, but if you can get it out, you will be able to get it out using a stamp cleaner of some sort. All right, I think I do want to get maybe like the base of these leaves to be a little bit colored differently. So I'm actually going to make myself a little makeshift mask so I can add a little detail right there. And then I can just pick up these Post-its, kind of move it around. This is kind of overkill. You don't necessarily need to do that, but I kind of wanted to differentiate the leaves. Okay, I'm going to take my same microfiber cloth that I was using before. Just wipe this down. It's just going to take off quite a bit of that ink. Some still is going to be remaining on the plastic of the stencil, but that really does help get a lot off. So when I go to clean it with my alcohol, it cleans up really easily. All right. Kind of like some hints of green. I love that. Cleaning off my stencil. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the flowers. So let's do this one first. It has a nice little tall stem over here. I'll get this lined up the best I can. I think that's pretty good. And for this one, I'm going to use the color, let's see, where'd it go? Watermelon. You could also use Sweet Pea, just because that's what we used on the background for the sunset or the sunrise, but I kind of wanted to change it up to watermelon. watermelon's kind of a pinky shade, so I'll use my pink blending brush. These are mini blending brushes from Altenew, by the way. And I'm not going to do any crazy ink blending on these. I'm just going to do a nice flat application. Making sure I change directions every once in a while to make sure I get all those nooks and crannies on the stenciling. Do we have any online classes planned? Not currently. We're hoping we will have one sometime soon, but right now we don't have anything to announce. Okay. Wipe down that stencil. All right, we've got the start of the flowers. Spraying my stencil down to clean it, wiping it off. And then we're going to move on to another set of flowers. These are like the little flowers that are, I don't know what to call these. They're kind of like drooping. I don't even know what to call them. Okay. And these are actually going to be in fig. And this time the fig can be a little bit stronger. Just because before we were doing the sunset blend, but now the fig can be a little bit stronger. In fact, I might even do a little bit more ink right at the center of the flower. Just try to get a little bit of a blend there. Got a lot of fig right there. Let's get these a little darker too. There we go. Brown-eyed Susans, cornflowers. Yeah, that's kind of like the shape of the flower, but I certainly don't think we're coloring them in that way. Okay, get a little more fig right there. Wipe this down with my microfiber cloth once again. Oh, that's really pretty. I like that. Spray with my rubbing alcohol. Okay. And then the last stencil, it actually does all of the centers of the flower plus these little flowers right here. So this is going to overlap the watermelon and give it kind of a orange shade. So we're actually going to get a bonus color, which is nice. Just trying to get it lined up the best I can. Okay, that's probably close enough right there. I'm going to switch to Buttercup. And I'll grab a yellow blending brush, and I'm just going to bring in this yellow. Like I said, it's going to overlap that pink and give it kind of an orange color. Get all those orange spots. Now, if you wanted to do these other flowers a different color, these right here, you could do them separately. They're far enough away from the flower centers that you could do that. But just for simplicity's sake, I'm doing all the same color on this one stencil. All right, I'll wipe this down and then we're gonna see what our whole flower scene looks like. Pretty cute. I like it. That fig is almost a little too intense, but that's okay. We'll take it. For the flowers, I used Altenew mini brushes. Okay, we are moving right along. I did do some ink blending off the edges with those, so I'll just take my baby wipe. I'm just going to spot clean. I can come back later and use that stamp cleaner that I mentioned if I want to. See, we'll just a little of that green got on the baby wipe. All right. So we need to figure out the greeting for this card. So I thought it would be kind of fun to mix different products in the release. So for this card, I'm actually going to be using the Big Day birthday stamps and dies. So I'm just going to have it say happy birthday, and then I'll have another sub greeting underneath. I happen to know that I want the happy to be die cut. So let me get these dies out. All right. And I'm just going to be using the word, not the shadow. And I'm going to be stacking them today. I probably want 4. So I'm going to take some Altenew, an Altenew adhesive sheet. This is 80-pound cardstock. The adhesive sheet does add quite a bit of bulk to the cardstock. And I just realized that I get a better result if I only do this on 80-pound white cardstock. I'm just rough cutting this so I can put this adhesive sheet down. In fact, it's probably a little too big. It is just a teeny bit too big. All right. All right. Let's put this adhesive sheet onto the cardstock. All right, I want to make sure I don't accidentally have my die go off that side where there's no adhesive, so we'll just cut that off. Oh, good. I'll be able to get all 4 cut out. Okay, so here is my die cutting sandwich for my Griffin Empress. I'm going to put that die right up there. Put that right there. Just run this through. All right. Nice cut. We love that. Let me see, where's my little pokey deal? There it is. All right, so I just want to cut this out 4 times. And it has the release paper on the back, so I essentially just made it into a sticker. So I just want 4 of these. So I'll cut it once again. And then I can stack them really easily. How do I store my grip mat? To be honest, I have it draped over the top of my trash can. That's literally where I keep it. But ideally, you probably want to put it somewhere where it's not going to get dust. I generally just wipe it down before I use it, and that brings any stickiness back. Some people like to put it in a kind of a zippy bag, you know, that keeps it from getting dusty. Yeah, to be honest, you can just drape it over somewhere in your crafting area where it won't be disturbed. If you do need to put it away completely, I would recommend maybe you probably, well, if it's a brand new grip mat, you probably still have the like the clear acetate sheets, the plastic sheets that it came on. You'd probably just have to put it back on one of those. You know what I'm saying? I think they're so difficult to remove from those sheets. So I don't like to store it on it because I think it just makes it more difficult. All right, one more. Okay, we're almost there. One more little happy die cut. Okay. So this is the last one. And then we're going to do some stamping in the MISTI so that we know exactly where we want to adhere this stacked word. All right. So I have all 4 happy cut out. And now we're going to go back to the MISTI. Actually, let me find out where I'm going to put this back on the die sheet before I lose it, basically. Okay, so now I'm going back to my MISTI. And here's the card. Okay. In the stamp set, grab birthday, the large birthday, and also a secondary piece. So I'm going to be stamping that one. And then let's do another year more fabulous. How about that one? Okay, so we've got to do just some planning here. I kind of want another year more fabulous to be about right there. And then I need the birthday kind of right above. And then this happy is going to go right above that. So I'm just kind of trying to get the placement right. I think birthday could go up just a little bit. And also I want to make sure it's straight. So let me see if I have one of my little alignment guide things. I always have them in my stash off here to the side, but I don't know where it went. It is hiding. Okay, well, I might have to just eyeball it. I like it when oh, wait. Did I find it? No, I did not. Dang it. I'm not sure where they're hiding. I guess I'll just have to eyeball it and try to make sure, hope it's straight. Okay, I think I want it about right there. We'll save that one to stamp later. It looks pretty centered to me. But maybe bring that down just a little bit. Oh, now it looks like it's tipped the other direction. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stamp this in, well, I was going to do fig, but it's so dark. So maybe I'll have it be in watermelon. I think watermelon would look really, really nice. I think fig would almost be too dark at this point. So I'm going to change my mind. I was going to have it be in fig, but I think I'm going to have it be in watermelon. I'm going to stamp this a couple of times. just to make sure I have a really solid stamping. Perfect. Clean off the birthday here. Then I'm going to stamp the secondary greeting in this one right here. Yes, a grid sheet. I can't find my grid sheet. I am, you know, we're just winging it. Okay, about right there. I think that looks about right. I've got like cardstock sticking to me. All right. Then I'm going to take that same black ink that I used for the flowers, Versafine Clair Nocturne. And I'm going to stamp this very gently. I don't want it to blob out in any area. Lovely. Clean off my stamp. We're going to adhere this to the front of a folded note card. Let me grab a 5x7 card base. And I'll just put some Tombow Extreme adhesive along each edge. In particular, I like to have tape runner for this instance because I like to get it as close to the edge as possible. Do you see where I have all the tape? I like to have it as close to the edge as possible. Card is opening this direction. I'm adhering from the fold because if it's a little too long or a little too short hanging off this end, then I can always just trim it with my trimmer. All right, so then we're going to have the happy right up there. Now I'm I'm second guessing myself. Maybe I should have had the birthday in purple in the fig. That's okay. Too late now. And I think it looks just as good in the watermelon. Okay. I've taken the release paper off the back of that. I'm going to grab some tweezers. I like to use tweezers so I can kind of get my hand out of the way so I can kind of see where I'm adhering it. Let me get this out, and I can also zoom in a little bit. Okay. Thinking about right. Maybe about right there. And press that down. And then now all I have to do is stack the other three right on top. And it should be fairly easy because I have all the adhesive already on the back. So when I'm adhering this stacked stuff like this, I like to start on one end. I'm just going to start on this end, kind of get that stuck down, and then just move a little bit at a time and press down as I get things lined up. And then it stacks really, really well. So we'll do the same thing with this next one. Take the release paper off the back. I'll start on that end once again. Looks like that one was a little off. I'm not pressing down until I know for sure that it's in the right spot. And this just makes for like a really, really clean stacked greeting. Sometimes I'm like, it'd be so much faster just to use glue, but I'm telling you, I see the difference, you know, like with especially like a dainty greeting like this. I see the difference in the finished product, like the stacked with glue versus just stacked with a full adhesive sheet. I'm like pinching the die cut and it lines it up with the ones underneath it. Then I can press it down. That also helps. Okay. And then I'm pressing down really well. The Altenew adhesive doesn't really stick permanently until you apply pressure. So now you can see, look at that, how well that stacked up with like nothing oozing out. It looks really solid. I just think it turns out so well. I'm a one-woman marketing machine for full adhesive sheets for stacked die cuts. All right, so that's the finished card for tonight. Super fast and easy. We finished in 45 minutes. This is unheard of, y'all. And I didn't even have anything prepped besides pulling out the ink colors. So that's kind of crazy. Thanks for joining me tonight. Just a reminder that mail call is Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I'm going to do a quick spiel for those watching the edited replay, and then I'll stick around for a minute if you guys have questions. So this is the finished card. I love the stacked grading. I showed everyone live, but now I'm going to show you on the edited replay that it really does look lots better when you have the really dainty, intricate grading stacked like this using a full adhesive sheet in comparison to using like a liquid glue. I think it just works out so much better. So I really encourage you to try it if you haven't. If you haven't tried it on a delicate grading like this, give it a try. I think you might like it. So all the supplies I used tonight are listed down below in the video description. I hope you'll check those out. Everything from my March 2026 release is available now, and you can purchase it over at concordaninth.com or your favorite crafty retailer. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys on Wednesday for mail call. It's at 2 o'clock. Hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. Okay. All right. Any questions? I think I caught a few while I was doing all my ink blending and whatnot, but if you have a question in particular, now is the time. Let me know. Oh, Andrea says, I'm impressed that the release paper came off each happy die cut without distorting the word. Well, one of them it kind of did. I don't know if you saw it, but it was easy enough to just, stick it back down, because I had the original on the card already. So if you are concerned about that, you could cut one of the word with no adhesive on it. Use liquid glue to adhere that to your project so it's in the right, the correct original form of the word. And then when you use the adhesive backed die cuts, you can just use that first die cut as a guide as you start to press it down. Scrappy Cat says, I'm so stingy with my adhesive sheets. I guess I need to stop hoarding them and use them. I hate the liquid getting everywhere. I was the same way. I didn't want to use the adhesive sheets in huge, massive amounts. But then I got a bunch on sale from Altenew, and now I'm like, no, girl, use them. You have enough adhesive sheets for the next 3 years using them at the rate I was using them before. So I think it's just so valuable. I love it. So worth it to me. Let's see here. Leanne says, mine never comes out like that. Can't get the release paper off easily. As I adhere them together, they get wonky and misaligned. Well, I hope that tip that I just gave you helps. If you need to, you can have the bottom of the stack be adhered to your project already as a guide for adhering all of the adhesive backed ones. So I don't know if it would be worth it, but I could walk you through stacking them again, because I really think the method I have works well. The one that I started to show you guys, I hope it came across well, where you start on one end of the grading and hold it up away from the project. And then I started on this end and I just adhered it a little bit at a time pressing down. I didn't try to get it all lined up all in one go. I started on one end and I stuck that down, and then I was able to kind of move the die cut around until it was lining up with the rest of the word. That's essentially what I was doing, and I find that that works really, really well. Oh, Laura says, I loved your video showing different adhesive options. Super helpful. That was with Sika. I think I saw Sika here at the beginning of the video. I don't know if she's still around. But Sika was visiting me, and we decided to put a bunch of different methods for adhering delicate stacked gratings together, using different liquid glues, different methods of how to use the glue, using full adhesive sheets, things like that. And it was in that, sorry, I've got my cup of water here. It was in that live when I discovered that I prefer using the full adhesive sheets. And I'd been using liquid glue all along, and the full adhesive sheets won me over. That's what worked out so well. Oh, hey, Sika. Sika's lurking. Leanne says, I think using the 80-pound cardstock is better than the thicker one. May make it easier to maneuver. That's true. I have done it with the 110-pound. I felt it was harder to remove the die cut from the die that way, using the thicker cardstock. And using the 80-pound, I feel like it most likely will cut through everything and make it like a full sticker like I'm using today, which makes it a little bit easier to remove the release paper. So I think using 80-pound cardstock in general is probably a good idea. And Laura says, and in that adhesive video, I learned to stack using liquid glue. See, it was a great video. It was really, really good. It was a good exercise in just like different ways to stack die cuts. Just so fun. Let's see here. We're scrolling up to see if there's any other greetings. Or not greetings, although I just read that in a comment. Any more questions? Let's see her. Betsy603 says, the skinny sentiments are difficult for me, but I love them so much. Same. I can't resist using them, right? Love it. Oh, Carissa brings up a good point. I love that using the sheet adhesive makes it adhere edge to edge so you don't have any gaps in the layers. It's a very good point. You're going to get a more even coverage of the adhesive. It's a very good point. Full adhesive sheets are probably, I don't think I've ever used it for this, but they're probably really good for vellum too. Like whenever I need to adhere vellum, I run it through my little Xyron Create a Sticker machine, and it puts adhesive all on the back of the vellum. You could use the full adhesive sheet on the back of vellum, and it would work just as well. And that would be amazing. Let's see. Somehow I can't make the subgreeting make sense. The words don't seem right in the right order. It's like, happy birthday, another year more fabulous. Like the person is another year more fabulous. Like every year they become more fabulous. It's a little bit of a little cheeky greeting, I guess. I don't know. It makes sense in my head. Hopefully it makes sense in other people's heads. I don't know. Let's see here. I'm scrolling back down. Let's see here. Do I still use that sticker making thing to put adhesive on them? I do. If it's a small, like my little Create a Sticker machine, I think the opening is only like 1.25 inches wide. It's the little X one. I do have another full adhesive machine from Xyron that does a similar thing, and it's much wider, but I don't have refills for it, like mini refills. So I'm hoarding it, saving it, I guess you could say. Let's see here. I'll have to try the 80-pound. The 110 was a massive fail for me. Yeah, I'm discovering that like the thickness of the cardstock might be contributing to some difficulty. So yeah, try different weight. Or if you don't have the 80-pound like white cardstock, try it with like a colored cardstock you might have, or even a pattern paper that's of a thinner weight. You might have an easier time. Yeah. trying to recover. And then they stole an hour from us. I'm noticing Christina already has a fresh mani. Meanwhile, I'm not even sure I've brushed my hair. Well, that's because well, for one thing, I have this live. And then I did not do anything else today because I had a headache. Probably from that loss of the hour and then traveling home, right? I thought, I don't have anything to do. Okay, so Sika and I were at a friend's house over the weekend, or not even the weekend. We came home on Saturday. And I got home and I thought, oh, I have nothing to do all day Sunday. I won't have anything to do. It'll be great. I can just relax. I'll take a nap. I had plans to take a nap. And then about an hour before, a couple hours before it was happening, my mom reminded me that my entire family was coming to my house for a meal. And I was like, what? Like I'd forgotten. So I did not get my nap. And then one of my good friends was coming over to play Mahjong late afternoon, but my family was here, so I had to postpone that. So then she came in the evening, which was fantastic. We just played some Siamese Mahjong. It was wonderful. We're very evenly matched. We both learned how to play Mahjong around the same time. And so it was really fun to play against her. We won pretty much half and half. And it was good fun. And then I didn't get to bed till late. So I've been dragging all day and I've had a headache. The headache has mostly subsided, so that's good. But anyway, Sika, I hope you find time to brush your hair. Let's see here. Yes, it is a good thing she reminded me. Yeah. Otherwise, it would have been like, here comes, my family ringing the doorbell, and I'd be like, what are you guys doing here? Hey, how you doing? They're like, we're here for dinner, for lunch. I'm like, what? Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, oh, I'm so jealous. We're never changing the clock times again here in British Columbia. Permanently on Pacific time. Oh, see, like there was a bill passed in Utah that if the surrounding states decided to just pick a time and stick to it, that we would as well. So come on, Nevada, Idaho, Washington, California, Colorado, New Mexico, Montana, get with it. Let's all just decide to be on the same time. Carrie's asking about my mini blending brushes. These are actually nail polish swatch dots. And I used I didn't. Sika did them for me, but she used actual nail polish on the dots and then put them on top. You could also buy the little enamel dots, the little swatching dots. You can find them for very inexpensively over at Amazon. Look up like circle polish swatch and it'll probably come up. It comes with a little adhesive dot that you put underneath. It comes with the adhesive and then you get the little circles. You could cut out a circle of cardstock and put it underneath as well. You could do that too. But Sika used actual nail polish. I happen to have a lot of nail polish colors. So she was able to just use nail polish. Let's see. La, la, la. Allie says, we voted in California to not change the time, but what happened to it? It probably had the same stipulation that ours did. Like, they would only do that if the surrounding states did as well. So there's got to be a holdout. Is it Nevada? Is it Idaho? Is it Washington? Is it Oregon? We don't know. But it probably has like a stipulation like that. I can't remember which states it said in our law that they were going to change it, but that's probably what it is. There you go. Here's her saying, you are another year older and even more fabulous. There you go. Yeah, kind of implied, same phrase. Okay, Sika says, first pass was enamel dots, and then I had a vision and had to try it with nail polish because the dots were different sizes and I was losing sleep over it. Okay, valid. Yeah, the nail polish dots are the perfect size for the top of the Altenew mini brushes. So they've worked really well. In fact, I should have a spa day for all my blending brushes because I mean, they blend lovely, but they've got so much ink in them, it probably would do them good to have a little spa day. Clean up my brushes. The feds have to approve it? I don't think so, because Arizona is not on daylight savings. As a state, they just decided to change it. So I think it's up to the individual states if they wanted to do that. I think there also was a federal bill that was proposed, but I don't think that ever got very far. I'm not sure why. But I think if the individual states wanted to do it, they could. But also federally, they could if they wanted it as well. I know, same, right? All it does is we're dragging for like a week, particularly in the spring. In the fall, when we gain an hour, I don't seem to have any problems. It's when we lose an hour is the problems for me. That is true. They did shorten the daylight savings, so because it used to be that I want to say we wouldn't change our clocks until, well, gosh, I feel like they shifted a few weeks in each direction. Probably what was that, like 10 years ago or something? Yes, and there's parts of Indiana that don't change times as well. Yes, absolutely. All right, y'all, it's a little after 7. I think I'm going to call it. Speaking of that headache, I'm going to go take some Tylenol or Advil or something. Get this headache taken care of. I'm probably dehydrated. I should drink more water. I'm going to work on that. All right, everyone have a lovely evening. I hope you find time to craft in the next few days. Come back for mail call on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I hope to see you all there. We're going to open up some mail and see what all of you have been creating over the last month. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you guys next time.